All right, our next order of business is to get some layouts in place. We need a layout for the header of every page and a layout for the footer of every page. Once we get that in place, it's actually going to be a lot quicker for us to build our next set of pages. I'm also just noticing here that we have some output to the console log that was, from our template. I think we're ready to take that out. So I'm just coming up here to app.js. Here's the console log commands. I'm going to pull those out and we're going to call it good. So to get started on our layout, first thing I'm going to do is come over to the views folder and I'm going to create a subfolder and I'm going to call that one layouts. We're just going to basically have two layouts. One that's going to be the upper portion or the header of what we do on every page, and the other that's going to be the bottom portion of what we do. And we might need to change some of our approaches in a few cases of what goes where. But that's kind of our plan. So I think I'm going to start by copying this index.ejs. And I'm going to come to layouts and see if I can paste it in there. And then I'm going to rename it to header. And I think I'm going to do the same thing. Again, make a copy of that. I'm going to rename that copy to footer. All right. So let's start with header. This is going to be what the head of every document we have is. All this stuff here at the top that pulls in our resources and our CSS and our JS. And I think memory serving that every page we had actually had a, it had this SayIt as an H1 tag at the top. I think we had that on every page, or I guess we're going to have that on every page now. So these buttons and other things, those were in the H1. I think I'm just going to pull those out of the H1 for now, or maybe I'll create a new H1 for them. And then this stuff is stuff that was on every page. And I think we didn't really have a footer for this, so it was just the body and the HTML. That's all that's going to be in the footer part. So the header is all this. So I'm going to save that, and then we'll go to footer, and footer is only going to contain, I guess I really didn't need to copy all that stuff in here. The footer is only going to contain these parts right here, the closed body tag and the closed HTML tag. So that one's pretty simple. Now we're going to modify our index.ejs to make use of that. So all this stuff that we said was going to be at the top, and I just realized I got to put an open H1 to match that. All right, so we need to include, so it's angle bracket %dash, include is the command, layouts is the directory, and header is the name of the header file that we want to include. So we're going to include the header file, and then we have all of this code. I think it looks a little bit silly to have all that indented, so I'm going to push it over to the left. And then at the bottom, for my body tag, I'm going to include layouts footer. And this script doesn't belong on every page. That just belongs here. So I think it actually makes more sense for it to be at the bottom inside the body, since it is content. So the body and the HTML tag, those closing tags came from the footer. So I'm going to include footer to get that behavior. Laravel had a great setup where you could actually say, now this is how the page should look, which included the header, the footer, and any parts in between, and then you just pulled in the content. That's not available with this system. So what we have to do is kind of piece it together. So we pull in the header, we put the content that's unique to this page, and then we put in the footer. And that's how that's going to be on every page. We still haven't verified that this works, so let's come back to the browser and see how we did. Looks like somehow I lost my tab there, so come to localhost 3000. Oh, I forgot to close a tag apparently. I didn't close it there. Did I close it up at the top? No, I didn't. And you guys didn't even stop me. You just let me do that. All right, let's try it again. Okay, now it's loading. And again, if I view page source, you can see this page looks exactly like it did before, except that, well, it looks like it did before. We're just building it in a different way. So that feels pretty good. Now that that's in place, really, what we need to do is repeat that process for our other pages. And let's just think about what other pages there are. So this index.php, we have already figured out what needs to go in there, so I'm going to delete it. And we'll happily delete these as we move forward. We have a login PHP. We have a sign up. Our logout.php, not sure why that was there. That didn't have content. That just set some sessions, so I'm going to delete it. We had an error PHP, and that was it. So pretty much, other than you know, the mechanics of logging in and signing up and errors, we have a one-page application. So what we're going to do is the sign up and the login, both of that has to do with authentication. So we're going to set those up with a separate controller, separate routing file, separate everything, and I just want you to kind of see that process. For me, I like to kind of start with the routes and then move my way forward because that's how it's handled when a request comes in. So I'm going to take this main.js and I'm going to copy it. Well, maybe I'll just do a save as. That might seem more straightforward. We'll take main.js in routes and we're going to save it as auth.js. So this is my routes file in the routes directory. All these things we're doing at the top are going to stay the same. We're actually going to have to pull in, we don't want main controller now, we want an auth controller. I could put all of the auth controller information in the main controller, that would work, but again, I'm just trying to show what it looks like if we're going to have a bigger set of files to work with. So I'm going to make a controller called auth if this is going to work, and let's see, whenever we visit, let's go ahead and do the login page. If you visit the /login, we're going to go to auth controller get login. So that's the behavior of the login controller. We'll come back and we'll do sign up later. So I've got to come to controllers and I've got to create a auth controller. So up here I'm going to come to main.js, I'm going to save as, and we're going to call it auth.js in the controllers file. And we don't have a get index, we do have a get login, however. And we're going to load a view called login, and the title of that page is going to be login, SayIt login. And I just realized I don't think we're using that title, are we? Where we would be using that title, we're passing the title to the view. Where we would be using that title is in the layout template. Let's come back here to our header. For title, notice I'm saying SayIt every time. Yeah, that's not acceptable. We're gonna use the variable that we pass to it. So we're gonna do % angle bracket % equals title % bracket, and we're gonna hope for the best. Let's just quick check to make sure that works. I'm gonna refresh, and title is still SayIt because that's what I'm passing. So that looks good. And that kind of sets us up so that when we come to our auth controller and we pass, we're going to say SayIt login. That's the title of that page. All that's great, except we don't actually have a login view. For the login view, I'm going to come here to index, save as, and we're going to use that because it's actually got a lot of what we want. So we're going to call it login.ejs. And I just noticed it seemed to really want to put an HTML extension on there. I'm going to have to rename that and take off the .html. It needs to have an EJS extension. Okay, here we are, login.ejs, and we are ready to change our content. We're still going to pull in the header, we're still going to pull in the footer, but the content of the login page, that is going to come from our login.php. So I'm going to come to login.php, and I'm just going to come right here, and I'm just going to do a copy paste. So there's my copy, and we're going to come to our login.ejs, and I'm going to paste all that in. Okay, apparently I just thought I was going to paste it in. I hope you're better at copying and pasting than I am. Let me do this one more time. I guess since I have the Vim extension installed, it's overriding certain behaviors. I'm going to hope that's what that is. So let's come in here and paste. There we go. Okay. Hope no one is prone to seizures with all that jumping around that was up there. All right, I think we got it. So we have our login form. Nothing too exciting here. I do want to remove all PHP. The post action, we're going to just say is going to post a login. We're obviously not going to do anything with that today. And then over here, we're just going to set the value to blank to start with. We'll probably put something back in there later. Again, error message on the page, that's going to be blank. We just want static code right now. All right, I think that ought to do it. So down here you can see that it restarted a few times when I was saving my code. That's always a good sign. I come here to the app, I'm going to refresh, that worked. So now I'm going to say /login and not found. All right, let's see if we can trace this. Oh, that's because I'm not using in my app.js, I'm not pulling in my login route. So if we come to app.js, I'm pulling in my main routes, but now I also need to pull in my auth routes. And I need to say I will now use auth routes as well as main routes. Okay, maybe that's going to be better. Let's refresh. Ha! There we go. We've got SayIt. It's all styled nicely. It shows the login form just like we were used to. So I think that's in great shape. Let's take a break and we'll finish this up real quick.